October 25, 1944, found gunner's mate, second class, Tommy Rodriguez, in a state of intense vigilance aboard the USS Enterprise, situated within the vast expanse of the Philippine Sea. The piercing shriek of the general quarters alarm sliced through the oppressive, humid Pacific air, prompting him to tighten his grip on the handles of his 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft gun. Above the carrier's expansive flight deck, a menacing formation of Japanese Yokosuka D-4Y dive bombers descended with a terrifying shriek, spearheading what would be recognized as the inaugural organized kamikaze assault in the annals of naval history. "Here they come!" Rodriguez's voice cut through the din, a warning to his gun crew. These enemy aircraft, plummeting at speeds exceeding 400 mph, emitted an unearthly shriek, reminiscent of banshees as they hurtled towards the American task force. Rodriguez deftly maneuvered his gun, attempting to lock onto the lead bomber. Yet its erratic and blistering speed rendered it an elusive target. His conventional ring sight, a rudimentary aiming device, merely indicated the bomber's present position, offering no predictive guidance for where it would be when his shells inevitably arrived. Frustrated, he unleashed volley after volley, watching his tracers streak ineffectually behind the rapidly diving kamikaze. All around him, a cacophony of desperate anti-aircraft fire erupted from countless other guns, their shells detonating harmlessly in the empty sky as the Japanese pilots relentlessly closed the distance to their American targets. Unbeknownst to Rodriguez, his vessel harbored a revolutionary and profoundly advanced weapon, a device so innovative that the Navy's high command had initially dismissed it as an insane and impossible fantasy. He was entirely unaware that this unassuming, shoebox-sized invention, conceptualized and brought to fruition by a Massachusetts Institute of Technology professor utterly devoid of military credentials, was poised to irrevocably alter the landscape of naval warfare, ushering in an entirely new era of defensive capabilities. The stark numerical evidence painted a grim picture of the situation. Over the initial 2 years of the Pacific War, American anti-aircraft guns achieved a dismal kill rate of merely 3.2%, which translates to a sobering statistic. Only 3 enemy aircraft were downed for every 100 shells discharged. Japanese pilots therefore assaulted American ships with virtually unchecked impunity, understanding that their survival amidst the thick curtain of anti-aircraft fire was predominantly a matter of sheer velocity and fortunate circumstances. By October 1944, American naval forces had expended more than 400,000 anti-aircraft rounds in active combat. This massive expenditure had resulted in approximately 12,800 hits on enemy aircraft, a catastrophic rate of failure that left American ships perilously exposed to the increasingly desperate and audacious Japanese offensives. The emergent kamikaze threat amplified this crisis to an urgent and critical level. Japanese pilots, now unburdened by the need to survive their attacks, effectively transformed every enemy aircraft into a precision-guided missile. Traditional anti-aircraft tactics, previously designed to deter and discourage attacking pilots, became utterly useless against adversaries who were unequivocally determined to sacrifice their lives. We invite you to stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Please leave a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. What these beleaguered gunners did not yet comprehend was that their salvation lay within the brilliant intellect of Dr. Charles Stark Draper, an MIT professor whose unorthodox approach to fire control was destined to revolutionize aerial combat, and in doing so, preserve thousands of American lives during the climactic final year of the Second World War. The persistent challenge of accurately engaging fast-moving aircraft had vexed military engineers since the advent of World War I. By 1941, American anti-aircraft guns possessed the capability to propel shells at astonishing velocities. However, striking a maneuvering target hurtling at 300 mph demanded a level of mathematical precision that human gunners simply could not attain. The core difficulty resided in lead calculation, the intricate process of determining precisely where to aim when firing upon a target in motion. For instance, a shell discharged from a 40mm Bofors gun required approximately 3 seconds to traverse the distance to an aircraft positioned 4,000 yards away. Within those crucial 3 seconds, an enemy plane traveling at 400 mph would cover nearly 1,800 feet. Consequently, gunners were compelled to aim at an empty expanse of sky, fervently hoping that their shells and the elusive target would converge at the identical point simultaneously. Conventional anti-aircraft sights were rudimentary iron rings, merely indicating the direction in which the weapons were pointed. However, enemy aircraft did not obligingly maintain straight flight paths at constant speeds. Instead, they executed dives, climbed steeply, banked sharply, and spiraled unpredictably, creating a dynamic three-dimensional conundrum that human reflexes were simply too slow to solve. The Navy's Bureau of Ordnance had explored numerous potential remedies. Fire control directors, which utilized mechanical computers to calculate lead angles, proved to be excessively complex for rapid target changes and too fragile for the rigors of shipboard deployment. Attempts to develop automated tracking systems ultimately failed due to the technological limitations of the era, which prevented reliable tracking of maneuvering targets. The prevailing expert consensus, solidified over years of frustration, held that the problem was fundamentally insurmountable. Admiral William Halsey, in a candid assessment from 1942, famously declared, "Anti-aircraft gunnery is more art than science. We can teach our boys to point and shoot, but we cannot teach machines to think like fighter pilots." In light of this, the Bureau of Ordnance had initially awarded development contracts to its established and traditional suppliers, Westinghouse, General Electric, and the Ford Instrument Company. Their proposed solutions invariably involved massive mechanical calculators, cumbersome devices that necessitated teams of operators and constant, meticulous maintenance. None of these elaborate systems ultimately proved practical for the unforgiving conditions of combat. Meanwhile, the stakes in the global conflict continued their relentless ascent. The German Luftwaffe had starkly demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of precision bombing against British urban centers. While Japanese naval aviation had proven devastatingly effective at Pearl Harbor, American ships desperately required robust anti-aircraft defenses, yet their current weaponry achieved hit rates barely exceeding random chance. The pattern of failed solutions remained consistent. Engineers approached the problem with conventional methodologies, creating intricate mechanical devices that sought to supplant human judgment with purely mechanical calculation. These systems, while functional under controlled laboratory conditions, invariably collapsed in the chaos of combat, where targets maneuvered unpredictably, and split-second timing was the definitive arbiter of survival. By the spring of 1941, the situation had escalated to one of profound desperation. German U-boats were sinking Allied merchant ships at a rate that outpaced their replacement capacity. Simultaneously, Japanese naval forces posed an existential threat to American positions across the Pacific theater. American warships, equipped with anti-aircraft guns that could barely hit their intended targets, remained dangerously vulnerable to aerial assaults. The Bureau of Ordnance's Fire Control Section, under the leadership of Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy, faced mounting and intense pressure to resolve the critical anti-aircraft problem. Traditional approaches had reached their limits, their potential exhausted, and time was rapidly dwindling. America was on the precipice of entering a war where air power would undeniably dominate naval operations. Yet American ships conspicuously lacked effective air defense. The Navy's highest echelons stubbornly refused to acknowledge the true magnitude of the crisis. Senior officers adamantly insisted that enhanced training and the deployment of more guns would suffice to solve the problem, willfully disregarding the undeniable mathematical reality that human reflexes were simply incapable of calculating three-dimensional intercepts with the requisite speed for modern aerial combat. This pervasive institutional blindness fostered a deadly feedback loop. Failed solutions continued to receive additional funding and development time, while truly innovative approaches were summarily dismissed as impractical or utterly impossible. Navy bureaucrats, in a bid to safeguard their reputations, resorted to blaming the gunners' training rather than conceding fundamental technological limitations. The harrowing human cost of this systemic failure became tragically evident in the opening months of the Pacific War. Japanese aircraft attacked American ships with minimal losses, while American anti-aircraft fire remained largely ineffectual. Sailors watched with a profound sense of helplessness as enemy bombers and torpedo planes bore down on their vessels, acutely aware that their defensive weaponry offered scant protection against such determined attackers. At the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, in May 1940, Dr. Charles Stark Draper sat in the faculty dining room, his sleeve casually rolled up as he meticulously sketched complex mathematical equations onto a napkin. At 38 years old, Doc Draper possessed no military credentials, no formal training in weaponry, and absolutely no prior experience with naval gunnery. His academic specialization was precision instrumentation, a field so esoteric that the majority of Navy officers would have struggled to articulate his professional pursuits. Draper's unconventional background made him an improbable candidate to revolutionize warfare. He had earned his doctorate through an intensive study of gyroscopic instruments, focusing on devices that measured rotation and orientation with microscopic precision. While Navy engineers were preoccupied with designing massive, room-sized fire control computers, Draper's work centered on spinning wheels no larger than silver dollars. His colleagues at MIT recognized him as an eccentric genius who approached intricate problems from remarkably unexpected angles. His students affectionately referred to him as Doc because of his unwavering insistence on hands-on experimentation, favoring practical application over purely theoretical analysis. His laboratory, rather than resembling a typical university research facility, bore a striking resemblance to a machinist's workshop, brimming with lathes, drill presses, and an array of precision measuring instruments. The pivotal breakthrough occurred during a casual lunch with pilots and engineers from the Sperry Gyroscope Company. They had been rigorously testing Draper's most recent innovation, a sophisticated rate of turn indicator designed to assist pilots in accurately determining the speed at which their aircraft were banking. This ingenious device employed a small gyroscope to measure rotational movement with extraordinary accuracy. During the meal, someone produced a newspaper featuring headlines detailing the rapid advance of German tanks through France. The conversation naturally shifted to the potential military applications of their ongoing work, and a pilot casually mentioned the inherent difficulty of hitting moving targets from aircraft. French gunners, the pilot elaborated, could reliably hit a stationary target, but they proved utterly incapable of striking anything that was moving swiftly. Draper abruptly ceased eating and fixed his gaze upon his gyroscopic turn indicator. His engineering mind, sharp and incisive, immediately grasped the profound connection between precisely measuring an aircraft's rotation and accurately calculating firing solutions for moving targets. If a gyroscope can determine how fast an aircraft is turning, it can also predict where that aircraft will be in the future. What if we could make the gun sight automatically lead the target? Draper inquired softly, his voice barely above a whisper. The entire table fell into a stunned silence. The concept seemed utterly impossible. A mere mechanical device that could somehow think ahead, calculating the optimal aiming point based on a target's current dynamic movement. Yet, Draper, with his profound understanding of physics, perceived the inherent mathematical elegance of the solution. His gyroscope, he realized, did not need to be intelligent in a human sense. It simply needed to be extraordinarily precise. With unwavering resolve, Draper dedicated the subsequent weeks to an intense absorption in the pioneering concept of the lead computing site. He voraciously consumed every available treatise on ballistics and fire control, diligently immersing himself in the intricate physics governing projectile trajectories and the precise mechanics of target interception. His workspace became a veritable repository of complex calculations, meticulously detailing trajectory mathematics, the nuances of gyroscopic mechanics, and the sophisticated principles of optical sight design. Draper's groundbreaking insight was truly revolutionary. Rather than seeking to supplant human judgment with mere mechanical computation, his vision was to elevate human reflexes through the application of gyroscopic precision. The gunner would retain the vital role of tracking the target and initiating the shot, yet the sight itself would autonomously fine-tune the aiming point, dynamically compensating for the target's motion. By September 1940, he had meticulously articulated the complete theoretical framework for his innovative lead computing sight. The ingenious apparatus was designed to employ a compact gyroscope to precisely gauge the speed at which a gunner was following a moving target, subsequently and automatically adjusting the aiming point of the sight to furnish the exact lead angle required. This was an idea so elegantly straightforward that seasoned engineers had inexplicably overlooked its potential, yet so profoundly transformative that it was destined to forever alter the landscape of aerial combat. Within the solitary confines of the MIT Instrumentation Laboratory, at precisely 22,000 hours in September 1940, Dr. Draper toiled alone in his subterranean workshop, enveloped by an array of specialized machine tools and delicate precision instruments. Perched prominently on his workbench was a rudimentary prototype, an assembly that more closely resembled a nascent science experiment than a sophisticated military implement. a rectangular metallic enclosure roughly the dimensions of a standard shoebox, linked to a .22 caliber rifle through a network of cables and robust mounting brackets. This unassuming shoebox housed Draper's truly revolutionary invention, a miniature gyroscope, no larger than a silver dollar, spinning at an astonishing rate of 24,000 revolutions per minute. This gyroscopic marvel was intricately coupled with an optical system engineered to project an illuminated reticle onto an angled piece of glass. The fundamental brilliance lay in its operation. As a gunner meticulously tracked a moving objective, the gyroscope would accurately measure the rate of that movement, subsequently and automatically recalibrating the aiming point to precisely anticipate the target's future position. Draper had poured 6 arduous months into meticulously refining this apparatus, dedicating countless evenings and weekends to its perfection, all while diligently upholding his demanding regular teaching commitments. The entire undertaking remained strictly unofficial, a testament to his personal conviction. MIT, at that juncture, held no contractual obligations for weapons development, and the United States military had regrettably expressed no discernible interest in gyroscopic gun sights. This particular night marked the pivotal occasion of the inaugural live fire test for his lead computing site. Draper carefully secured the modified rifle onto a sturdy pipe stand, providing essential support for the additional mass of his prototype contraption. He had ingeniously devised a rudimentary target system, a simple white towel affixed to a rope, which traversed back and forth across the laboratory space, mimicking the oscillatory motion of a pendulum. This oscillating towel served as a crude yet effective simulation of an aircraft traversing a gunner's field of vision. We invite you to stay with us and watch the end of the video to witness the full story unfold. We would be immensely grateful for your like and subscription. Please also share a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. The initial discharge missed its mark entirely. Draper's calculations, it appeared, were marginally miscalibrated, causing the sight to provide an excessive lead. With methodical precision, he adjusted the gyroscope settings and discharged the weapon once more. This shot landed closer, yet still trailed behind the elusive moving target. For a sustained period of 3 hours, Draper systematically fired single shots at his makeshift target, meticulously performing minute adjustments to the sight's intricate mechanics after each individual miss. Gradually, but undeniably, the system began to demonstrate significant improvement. By the stroke of midnight, he had achieved a remarkable feat, consistently hitting the moving towel, an accomplishment that would have been virtually unattainable using conventional iron sights alone. The definitive breakthrough arrived with his concluding shot of the evening. The towel, on this occasion, swung across his line of sight at a subtle angle, ingeniously simulating an aircraft executing a banking turn. Draper smoothly maintained his track on the target, allowing his innovative gyroscopic sight to effortlessly and automatically compute the requisite lead angle. He then firmly squeezed the trigger. The bullet tore precisely through the very center of the moving towel. Draper gazed at the astonishing outcome, overcome with amazement. His unpolished rudimentary prototype had just achieved what established military experts had universally deemed impossible: the automatic calculation of the precise firing solution for a dynamically maneuvering target. The ramifications of this success were nothing short of staggering. The following morning, Draper promptly presented his compelling test results to his established contacts at the Sperry Gyroscope Company. The company's engineers initially scrutinized his prototype with considerable skepticism, readily noting its rather crude construction and decidedly unconventional design. "This appears to be something you might have fabricated in your personal garage," a chief engineer remarked with a hint of disdain. "Indeed, I did construct it in my garage," Draper responded calmly, his composure unwavering. The Sperry engineers, however, proceeded to examine the gyroscopic mechanism with greater diligence, gradually recognizing the exceptional precision and underlying sophistication concealed within its rough exterior. The fundamental mathematical principles, they concluded, were undeniably sound, and the unequivocal test results spoke volumes for themselves. Yet, when Draper subsequently presented his invention to official military representatives, the reaction was immediate and overwhelmingly hostile. "This is utterly insane," declared a Navy ordnance officer, his voice laced with incredulity. "You propose to affix a spinning top to a firearm and anticipate it will accurately strike airborne targets? That is simply impossible." The room erupted in a chorus of dismissive laughter, but Draper, unshaken, maintained his quiet confidence. He had personally witnessed his invention's efficacy, and he possessed an unshakable certainty that it would fundamentally revolutionize aerial warfare. At the Bureau of Ordnance, Navy Department, Washington, D.C. On May 28, 1941, Lieutenant Commander Marion Murphy guided Dr. Draper through the expansive corridors of the Navy's most influential technical bureau. They passed by numerous offices bustling with activity, filled with complex engineering blueprints and intricate scale models of colossal fire control systems. Their destination was a crucial meeting, one that held the power to determine whether Draper's revolutionary gun sight would garner official endorsement, or conversely, vanish into the annals of bureaucratic obscurity. The austere conference room was occupied by a distinguished assembly of 12 senior officers and highly regarded civilian engineers, collectively representing the Navy's foremost technical intellects. At the head of the imposing table sat Captain William Blandy, the esteemed chief of the Bureau of Ordnance's Research and Development Division, the pivotal figure, whose approval Draper desperately required to advance his pioneering work. "Gentlemen," Murphy began, her voice clear and authoritative, "Dr. Draper has successfully developed a gyroscopic gun sight that automatically computes the necessary lead angles for moving targets. Remarkably, this device weighs less than 20 pounds and operates without the need for any external power source." Captain Ralph Christie, widely recognized as the Bureau's preeminent fire control expert, immediately interjected. "Lead computing sights have been attempted in the past. They invariably necessitated room-sized mechanical calculators and dedicated teams of operators. How, then, can a mere 20-pound device conceivably perform such complex calculations?" Draper, with quiet dignity, rose from his seat and carefully placed his prototype onto the conference table. The unrefined metal box immediately drew skeptical glances from the assembled experts. "This device does not calculate," Draper patiently clarified, his voice calm. "It measures. The gyroscope precisely detects the rate at which the gunner is tracking a moving target, subsequently and automatically adjusting the sight picture to provide the correct lead angle." The room swiftly erupted in a cacophony of objections. "That is utterly impossible," declared a Westinghouse engineer, his tone incredulous. "Lead calculations demand precise knowledge of a target's speed, altitude, and bearing. You cannot possibly measure those critical variables with a simple gyroscope." "The fundamental premise of the system is flawed," added a representative from the Ford Instrument Company. Combat gunnery necessitates a level of mechanical precision that human operators simply cannot consistently provide. Your device, Dr. Draper, relies on gunner skill rather than effectively eliminating human error. Captain Christie forcefully pounded the table, demanding attention. "We have invested millions of dollars in developing proven fire control technologies. These sophisticated mechanical calculators represent decades of relentless engineering advancement. You are now asking us to forsake established scientific principles for what amounts to some spinning toy." Draper maintained his remarkable composure as the barrage of criticism intensified around him. He had encountered academic skepticism on numerous occasions throughout his career, and he understood implicitly that truly revolutionary ideas invariably faced staunch resistance from entrenched experts. "Would you care to witness a demonstration?" he inquired simply, his question cutting through the charged atmosphere. The room instantly fell into a profound silence. No one among the distinguished gathering genuinely anticipated that the crude prototype would actually function as claimed. 2 days hence, the identical group reconvened at the Watertown Arsenal firing range. Draper meticulously mounted his modified .22 rifle onto a stable shooting stand, while Lieutenant Commander Murphy expertly operated a mechanical apparatus designed to propel targets across the range at varying velocities and angles. The inaugural target materialized, a white panel traversing from left to right at an approximate speed of 30 meters. Draper confidently shouldered his rifle, tracked the moving target through his gyroscopic sight, and fired. The bullet struck the moving panel with unerring accuracy, dead center. Murmurs of genuine surprise rippled through the assembled group of observers. "Again!" commanded Captain Blandy, his voice betraying a hint of growing intrigue. The subsequent target moved at a swifter pace and followed a notably more irregular trajectory. Draper, with practiced ease, maintained a smooth track, allowing his innovative sight to autonomously compute the precise lead angle. Another flawless hit. By the time the 5th consecutive hit on moving targets was registered, the initial skepticism that had pervaded the group had entirely dissipated, transforming into unadulterated amazement. Captain Christie, now visibly impressed, approached the rifle and meticulously examined the gyroscopic sight mechanism. "How precisely does it operate?" he inquired quietly, his previous skepticism replaced by genuine curiosity. Draper lucidly expounded upon the underlying physics. "The gyroscope measures angular velocity, specifically how rapidly the gunner is rotating to follow a moving target. Since angular velocity bears a direct correlation to the required lead angle, the sight is capable of automatically providing the correct aiming point without necessitating prior knowledge of the target's actual speed or its precise distance. It was then that Captain Blandy rendered a pivotal decision, one that would irrevocably alter the course of naval warfare. I require specifications and pricing details for 50 experimental units immediately. If this device performs as consistently as it has demonstrated, we will undoubtedly require thousands of them." the room once again erupted. But this time, the outburst was fueled by unbridled excitement rather than skepticism. Officers and engineers surged forward, crowding around Draper's prototype, eagerly posing technical questions and animatedly discussing the myriad possibilities for its widespread implementation. Lieutenant Horatio Rivero, who had once been a student under Draper's tutelage at MIT, approached his former professor with undisguised admiration. "Doc," he exclaimed, his voice filled with awe, "you have just solved the most formidable problem in naval gunnery." It was a profound challenge that had long plagued naval artillery. Within a mere 24 hours, the Navy initiated its inaugural procurement, ordering a dozen experimental Mark 14 gun sights. This seemingly impossible apparatus, which had been summarily dismissed as a product of madness by seasoned experts, was soon destined to be integrated into every major combat vessel within the American fleet. At the Naval Proving Ground in Virginia, on January 15, 1943, Commander Arthur MacDonald meticulously supervised what would become the most exhaustive weapons assessment in the annals of naval history. As skilled technicians diligently affixed the initial production models of the Mark 14 gun sights onto 40mm Bofors anti-aircraft armaments, the resulting statistical data was poised to determine whether Dr. Draper's groundbreaking invention would be adopted as standard issue across the entire United States Navy. The rigorous testing protocol was characterized by its uncompromising precision. Unmanned target drones traversed predefined trajectories at varying velocities, altitudes, and approach vectors, while dedicated gun crews discharged controlled volleys of ammunition. Sophisticated electronic counters meticulously registered each round expended and every successful hit achieved, thereby generating an exact mathematical quantification of the sight's overall efficacy. Initial baseline evaluations, conducted with traditional iron sights, recorded a total of 12,847 rounds fired, resulting in 412 successful target engagements, yielding a modest success rate of 3.2%. Subsequent trials utilizing the revolutionary Mark 14 gyroscopic sights involved the expenditure of 15,119 rounds, a figure deliberately calculated to facilitate a comparative success rate analysis, leading to an impressive 1,527 targets hit, which translated to a significantly enhanced success rate of 10.1%. This represented a dramatic improvement, signifying more than a threefold increase in the effective kill rate compared to conventional sighting mechanisms. However, the most compelling findings emerged from the systematic observation of individual gun crews across multiple practice sessions. Gunners who employed the Mark 14 sights exhibited rapid and marked improvement in their performance, largely because the automated lead calculation mechanism allowed them to concentrate solely on maintaining smooth target tracking, thereby eliminating the need for complex mental arithmetic under pressure. Gunners made first class. Joseph Romano offered a representative testimonial, articulating the widespread sentiment. With the antiquated sights, I was perpetually engaged in guesswork regarding my aiming point. Approximately half the time, my shots would overshoot the target, and the other half, they would undershoot. However, with the Mark 14, I simply maintain the target within the sight picture and actuate the trigger. The sight itself performs all the intricate cognitive computations for me. By June of 1943, the mass-produced Mark 14 sights began their deployment to the Pacific Fleet. The first true crucible of combat arrived during the amphibious invasion of the Gilbert Islands on November 20th, 1943. Aboard the venerable USS Lexington, positioned approximately 50 miles northeast of Tarawa Atoll, aviation ordnance man. Second-class Mike Sullivan hunkered down behind his 40mm Bofors gun as the carrier's advanced radar system detected an inbound formation of Japanese aircraft. The formidable Betty bombers initially approached at an altitude of 15,000 feet before initiating their precipitous attack dives, accelerating beyond 350 miles per hour as they zeroed in on the American task force. "Bogies inbound, bearing 270, a gun director operator vociferously announced. Sullivan expertly pivoted his weapon toward the rapidly approaching enemy aircraft, his gaze fixed through the Mark 14 gyroscopic sight. The illuminated reticle precisely indicated his aiming point, automatically adjusting its position as he meticulously tracked the plummeting bomber. The lead Japanese aircraft entered his effective engagement range at 4,000 yards. Sullivan unleashed a torrent of 40mm shells toward the adversary plane. His tracer rounds streaked ahead of the target, converging precisely at the point where the Mark 14 sight had predicted the aircraft would be. The bomber disintegrated in midair, showering the ocean below with fiery debris. "Got him!" Sullivan exclaimed triumphantly, already reorienting his weapon toward the subsequent attacker. Within a quarter of an hour, the American task force had successfully downed 11 Japanese aircraft, while sustaining only negligible damage to a single destroyer. This remarkable kill ratio signified a complete reversal of fortunes compared to prior engagements, where Japanese pilots had routinely managed to breach American air defenses with relative impunity. However, the most compelling evidence of the Mark 14's transformative effectiveness emerged during the harrowing kamikaze assaults in the Philippines. On October 25, 1944, aboard the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise, gunner's mate second class Tommy Rodriguez, the very same sailor featured in our introductory scene, was now operating a 40mm Bofors cannon equipped with Dr. Draper's revolutionary sighting apparatus. As Japanese dive bombers hurtled toward his carrier in the first organized kamikaze attack, Rodriguez meticulously tracked the lead aircraft through his Mark 14 gun sight. The sophisticated gyroscopic mechanism automatically computed the precise lead angle as the kamikaze pilot plunged earthward at a blistering 400 miles per hour. Rodriguez steadfastly maintained the target centered within his sight picture and sustained a continuous barrage of fire. His shells intercepted the diving aircraft at a range of 2,000 yards, utterly destroying it before it could impact the carrier. Around him, scores of other gun crews, similarly outfitted with Mark 14 sights, achieved comparable successes. The kamikaze offensive, which had been intended to inflict devastating damage upon the American task force, instead resulted in grievous Japanese losses and minimal harm to U.S. vessels. The statistical enhancement was nothing short of astonishing. The anti-aircraft results from the Philippine campaign provided stark evidence of this transformation. Out of a total of 1,947 kamikaze aircraft engaged, an impressive 1,530 were shot down by ships equipped with Mark 14 sights, yielding an extraordinary success rate of 78.6%. The enemy's reaction unequivocally revealed the profound magnitude of this technological shift. Intercepted Japanese communications evinced a burgeoning alarm regarding the formidable effectiveness of American anti-aircraft defenses. Commander Yoshio of the 343rd Naval Air Group relayed a disconcerting report to his superiors. "American defensive fire has become devastatingly accurate. Our pilots report that enemy tracers now intercept our aircraft with mechanical precision. Previous tactics of high-speed approaches no longer provide adequate protection. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, Japan's preeminent fighter ace, observed with a sense of foreboding, "Something fundamental has changed in American gunnery. Their shells now arrive exactly where our aircraft will be, not merely where they are. It is as if their gunners possess the uncanny ability to perceive the future." The most definitive and telling assessment emanated from Admiral Takajiro Onishi, the esteemed commander of Japanese naval aviation, who grimly concluded, "American ships have become nearly impervious to attack. Their anti-aircraft fire achieves hit rates that approach theoretical maximums. We must now assume that every approach to enemy vessels will inevitably result in our aircraft's destruction." The profound human impact of this innovation transcended mere statistics. American sailors, who had previously endured the harrowing experience of watching helplessly as enemy aircraft bore down upon their ships, now possessed genuinely effective defensive weapons. Seaman First Class Robert Hayes of the USS Franklin penned a heartfelt letter to his family, expressing this newfound confidence. "We no longer feel utterly helpless when the Japs come calling. Our guns truly work now. They really work. When we fire upon them, they go down. It's akin to having a guardian angel vigilantly watching over every ship in the fleet." By the cessation of hostilities, the Mark 14 gun sight had been integrated into over 85,000 American and British artillery pieces. This device, once derided by experts as impossible and even insane, had achieved kill rates that surpassed even the most sanguine pre-war prognostications, fundamentally transforming naval anti-aircraft warfare from a desperate aspiration into a mathematical certainty. On August 15, 1945, in the tranquil waters of Tokyo Bay, as General MacArthur formally accepted Japan's unconditional surrender aboard the majestic battleship USS Missouri, every major U.S. Navy vessel present in the harbor was equipped with multiple Mark 14 gyroscopic gun sights. This impossible invention, which naval experts had unceremoniously dismissed just 4 years prior, had now become indispensable standard equipment on American warships across the globe. The conclusive statistical data unequivocally underscored the immense magnitude of Dr. Draper's invaluable contribution to the Allied victory. A total of 85,000 Mark 14 gun sights were produced, directly leading to the destruction of an estimated 23,147 enemy aircraft, and crucially, the estimated preservation of 50,000 American lives. Post-war analyses conclusively demonstrated that ships outfitted with Mark 14 sights achieved anti-aircraft kill rates that were a staggering 15 times higher than those vessels relying on conventional gunnery methods. The mathematical precision inherent in the system was truly astonishing. A relatively simple gyroscopic mechanism had effectively transformed naval air defense from a state of ineffectual desperation into one of lethal certainty. The most compelling testament, however, came from the very men who personally experienced this profound transformation. Lieutenant Commander Frank Smith of the USS Hornet articulated his sentiments in his final patrol report. "The Mark 14 sight instilled in us a level of confidence we had never previously known. We understood that when Japanese aircraft approached our ships, we possessed the capability to stop them. That psychological shift was every bit as significant as the technical improvement itself." Gunner's Mate First Class Joseph Romano offered perhaps the most deeply moving tribute. Dr. Draper never once set foot on a warship, never discharged a weapon in anger, never wore a military uniform. Yet, Because of his ingenious invention, thousands upon thousands of American sailors returned home alive. We owe him an immeasurable debt of gratitude. However, Dr. Draper himself remained characteristically humble regarding his monumental achievement. When journalists approached him after the war, eager to conduct interviews about his revolutionary gun sight, he consistently redirected all credit to the dedicated Navy personnel who painstakingly implemented and utilized his device. "I merely solved a mathematics problem," Draper steadfastly insisted. "The true heroes are the young men who courageously employed those sights to defend their ships and their shipmates." Draper steadfastly declined all offers for commercial endorsements, celebrity appearances, and lucrative Hollywood movie deals. He chose instead to return to his esteemed MIT laboratory, where he dedicated his intellect to tackling new and complex challenges in the field of precision instrumentation. His wartime fame became an uncomfortable burden that he actively sought to avoid. The profound influence of the Mark 14 extended far beyond the confines of World War II. The fundamental gyroscopic principles that Draper innovatively pioneered for anti-aircraft gunnery subsequently formed the bedrock for modern inertial navigation systems. His extensive post-war research and development in missile guidance directly paved the way for the sophisticated navigation computers employed in the Apollo program. Today, every American submarine carries Trident ballistic missiles, guided by highly advanced systems that are direct descendants of Draper's groundbreaking wartime innovations. The Charles Stark Draper Laboratory continues its vital role as the sole supplier of navigation systems for U.S. Navy strategic weapons, maintaining an unbroken lineage directly traceable to that rudimentary shoebox prototype, initially tested in an obscure MIT basement. We sincerely hope you are enjoying this detailed narrative. Please stay with us and watch until the very end of the video. Your like and subscription would be greatly appreciated as we continue to bring you compelling stories. We also invite you to share where you are from and what your thoughts are on this fascinating topic in the comments section below. A rudimentary prototype, fashioned simply as a shoebox, underwent its initial rigorous assessments deep within the subterranean laboratories of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. This humble beginning marked the genesis of a revolutionary concept, a testament to the ingenuity that often sprouts from the most unpretentious origins, laying the groundwork for advancements that would forever alter the landscape of military technology and beyond. Today's cutting-edge fighter aircraft, for instance, are equipped with sophisticated head-up displays, HUDs, that seamlessly project vital targeting coordinates and flight data directly onto the pilot's windshield, integrating information with their field of view. This very same foundational principle of visual information overlay was ingeniously employed by Dr. Draper decades ago for his pioneering gyroscopic gun sight, a device that drastically improved accuracy. Furthermore, the enduring utility of gyroscopic technology is evident in contemporary anti-aircraft defense systems, which continue to utilize gyroscopic stabilization for the exceptionally precise tracking and engagement of rapidly maneuvering aerial threats. The profound ethical and intellectual lesson emanating from Dr. Draper's journey transcends the narrow confines of military hardware and strategic armaments. Dr. Draper achieved unparalleled success precisely where a multitude of established and conventionally trained experts had previously faltered, primarily because he approached a long-standing, complex problem with an entirely fresh, unencumbered perspective. His rather unconventional background, far from being a hindrance, actually proved to be an immense advantage, affording him the unique insight to perceive innovative solutions that had completely escaped the notice of highly specialized weapons engineers. As one of his astute colleagues at MIT famously quipped, Doc didn't know that automatic lead calculation was impossible, so he went ahead and invented it anyway. Stay with us and watch the end of the video. We will be grateful for your like and subscription. Write a comment about where you are from and what you think about the video topic. This remarkable individual, who irrevocably transformed the very nature of aerial warfare, harbored no desire for personal recognition, laid no claim to glory, and sought absolutely no financial gain from his ground-breaking endeavors. His indelible legacy is deeply embedded in the intricate mechanics of every precision weapon system, the sophisticated programming within every advanced navigation computer, and, most significantly, in the countless lives of American servicemen who returned home safely to their families. This profound, widespread impact is a direct consequence of one determined MIT professor's unwavering refusal to accept the prevailing notion that accurately hitting fast-moving targets was an insurmountable challenge.